When you're making a documentary film, you have two things to consider in terms of your budget. The first is financial, and the second is time. These are the two most important variables. In terms of your budget financially, well, clearly this revolves around technology, where you're going to film, what you're going to film, and whether you have interviews. Do you need to shoot somewhere specific? Do you need to go to interview someone? And what are the costs involved in that? Remember also that you could do interviews on Skype, for example, so you don't always need to travel. But perhaps the most important part of filmmaking is a commitment of time. This is really the thing that you need to accept, that a good documentary film, one that's watchable, one that's engaging, is going to take time. Documentary films takes time because of all the footage that you produce over the course of your filming process, and that's just the production phase. A very small amount of that is actually going to be used. You will need B-roll film, for example, as well as the actual main kind of active shots that you're going to use, your interviews and so on. And in that sense, a lot of your filming will be spent simply just watching an environment unfold, just leaving the camera to record, so you've got B-roll to stitch together. Filming takes a long time. Setting it up, filming, getting there and back. The whole process takes much longer than you might expect. And for all of the information and all of the footage that you produce, you will only use maybe 5 to 10% in the final edit of your film. So be prepared. It might cost you some money, but it's definitely going to take a lot of time. For example, we went to film Tweety the Clown at the Gifford Circus. And even though if you watch Looking for Charlie, you might only see Tweety for about a minute, maybe 2 minutes, is that we were there all day. We had to travel from Coventry to Stroud, that's a 2-hour journey, and then we spent all day filming, and only 2 minutes of that was used in the final edit. But it was completely worth it. When you watch Looking for Charlie, you can see that the environment in the circus was amazing. It was perfectly lit, and the environment really made for a professional feel in the final edit. And that's something else to say about this experience of making a film when it comes to both time and budget. It's to take advantage of the things that you have available to you. We made contact with Tweety and the Gifford Circus on Twitter, and they allowed us then to come and film. So one piece of advice would be to take your camera with you and to use it in the opportunities that life presents. A documentary film allows you to engage and collaborate with many more people. In Looking for Charlie, for example, we engaged other filmmakers like Mark Cousins. We engaged stage performers and clowns like Tweety the Clown. And that really gave us the opportunity to have different voices, different perspectives, and different skill sets as part of that process. Because it's not just about the people that appear on film. Collaboration is a much broader thing. So you can collaborate with people that are experts in photography, perhaps in sound recording. And as a result of that, you get a much more holistic experience. You have a much broader set of skills to draw upon. Working with other people really gives you the opportunity to challenge your own ideas and to ensure that there is a degree of separation from what you might produce. So for example, working with Darren on Looking for Charlie, on Signals and Aftermath, our documentary series on Donald Trump's election campaigns, is that we could honestly and openly give each other work that we'd produced and gain an honest and open interpretation and review of those products. And that's something that's really helpful, because it means that ultimately, whilst it's not always comfortable to have your work critiqued and challenged, in the end, the result is always improved by that collaborative process. You have to be open-minded, and you have to accept that people are going to challenge your work and to tell you things perhaps in an open and honest environment that things aren't as good as they might be.
The 70s and stuff like that, the Bronx was like a third world country, and nobody ever wanted to come into the Bronx because they thought they would never make it out. At the time, in that era of the Bronx, the 70s and stuff like that, it was a lot of abandoned buildings. It was poverty. It was considered the ghetto. And growing up in the Bronx, to me, my mom had 11 kids and she was a single parent. It was so much richness in the Bronx, but even though nobody was rich there and we didn't have money and it was poverty, it was so much of a culture richness. And hip hop, growing up in the Bronx was like, it was just what you was born and raised in. So it wasn't nothing shocking, and you just, it was like, you grew up in the hood, you grew up in the ghetto, and the people in the ghetto and all, everybody wasn't sad or unhappy. Everybody was just making the best way they can. And my mom had 11 mouths to feed, and she was a single parent, and we lived from pillow to post. But it never coming up was like we was sad and, nothing like that. It really was just made us strong, because, my mom used to be like, don't cry no matter what. It was not about crying, and it was not about the problem. It was like, it's survival mode. What's the solution? And so the Bronx kind of had that vibe, like everybody was doing what they had to do to make it work. As far as society was beating the Bronx down a lot, criminal justice, but it was so much richness that rose this dude growing the craft of the hood. So much richness came out of it, which was hip hop. And when hip hop came out, we was just doing it. Well, I know Mercedes ladies, I used to run away from home because that was how I was escaping all the pressures at home. And I used to take to the streets. And then I used to see like Grandmaster Flash and Cool Herc and all of them on the corner. And so the corner, everybody, that's where the setup was. Wasn't no stages, wasn't no nothing. It was the corner of Boston Road. It was Cedar Park. Everybody set up their equipment, and then you find somebody DJing and rapping. So me and 3 other girls used to go up there, and I used to go way up there because I knew my mother wouldn't come out and look for me because she had too many kids at home. So when I used to get home, I used to wait for the beatings. But the love of hip hop outweighed the pain of the beatings. Like, okay, like I just got so used to it, but I'm back out there again. At that time, it was Sha Rock, and she was the first female MC in the Bronx, and she was with the Funky, you probably know, with the Funky 4+1 and DJ Breakout and the Uptown Crew. So she was the female for them. You had MC Smalley, who was the female MC for the L Brothers, Theodore and them. And so you had females like that was part of a male group. And what myself, R.D. Smalley, Tracy T, and Little Bit, we went up there and we used to be out there and we used to be like, we should start our own crew. Why isn't it all female crew? You know, and that was we was only like 15, 14. We was like, we're gonna start our own crew and we're gonna go up against the guys. And that was our attitude. And so what we did was sat up there and was trying to think of a name. So we said we wanted a name that was powerful, that, you know, it wasn't gonna be looked at as, oh, we're some black young girls from the hood, you know, and the stereotypical thing about us from the hood. We wanted to be, even though we came from the hood, we wanted a classy name. So we was trying to think of things. So Mercedes, we thought of cars, an expensive car, and Mercedes came up. And so from that, we was like, that's it, Mercedes Young Ladies, that's it. And that's how we came up with the name. And we started printing up, we used to get the sweatshirts and print like Velcro letter on it that said Mercedes Young Ladies, and we used to have our jeans on. So it was 4, and then we started recruiting other girls. So then at that time, we would just walk through the hood with our sweatshirts on, and everybody be out there with guys doing their stuff, and it's like, Mercedes ladies, you know, but they just thought we was just a female crew, we was just coming, but then our name started getting popular. So if you listen to some of their raps, in my Mercedes, young ladies, then you have the Furious 5 and then say Mercedes. If you listen to their rap back there, you'll hear Mercedes ladies, and that's when our name started getting popular.